Hello, and welcome to the Viva Connections SharePoint Framework Biweekly Sync. It is August 11th, 2022. I'm your host on this call, Patrick Rodgers, and we've got a great agenda as always for you. We've got latest updates on SharePoint Framework. VESA is back, so we'll get some good updates there. Excited to hear what's new. Patterns and practices updates across the program. New community samples. We'll do our optional picture time, and then two great demos. The first from Marcus on a React Taxonomy File Explorer. So a really awesome way to manage your files, group your files, and find stuff. And then Elio on an introduction to the new Viva Connections Toolkit VS Code extension. Excited to see that. That's something that's been coming along. Really cool stuff. So before that, let's go over a few things here. So we got opportunities to participate. If you're ever wondering how to get a little more involved in the patterns and practices and what might be going on, really encourage you, do a demo, reach out. There's a link there in the bottom right corner to request a demo spot, ak.ms/m365pnp/request/demo. And we'd love to get you signed up. I know you're all doing great stuff for your customers and your companies, and make sure it's okay to share, but would love to get you signed up for a demo. Might not be able to do it, like it might not be like the next call. Sometimes we're booked out a little bit. We will absolutely get you signed up. Would love to have you come on and do a demo. I think that's one of the most valuable parts of these calls. As well, you can always contribute on GitHub by reporting issues, submitting pull requests, and you can help others with their issues and questions, which is a great way to get involved. And then, of course, you can always give us feedback. How are these calls? How's our documentation? Where else can we help? And positive feedback is okay, too. If we're doing something you like, let us know. We can do a little bit more of it. This next page here is our giant page of links. The only link you need to remember is ak.ms/m365/community. And that's going to have all of the links out to all of these things. So we've got developer videos, which are focused on developer scenarios, learning specific technologies, getting started on graph, stuff like that. We've got our community videos, which are going to be the recordings of this call, other community calls, or other Thursday call or Tuesday calls. So if you miss a call or just want to review something that was covered in one of the previous calls, that's how you're going to find them on the YouTube channel. All our recordings are available typically about 24 hours after the calls happen. We've got a bunch of open source repository or organizations rather on GitHub, PnP, Office Dev, Microsoft Graph, SharePoint, and OneDrive. I need to get added to this slide. I keep forgetting to do that. That's on me. So check all of those out. All of those places welcome your feedback, your participation, and we've got a ton of great sample galleries. That top link there, ak.ms/m365/samples, will take you to the new unified samples gallery, which is a great way to find samples across all of these repositories. So instead of having to go to individual places, you can search for, filter, and find exactly the samples you need without having to maybe know exactly which GitHub repository to go to. So really excited about that, and to see that get created by folks and the great work that's gone into that. Definitely check that out. Again, the one link, ak.ms/m365/community, will get you to the landing page and links back to all of this great content. Here's a page of all of the great community calls we've got going on. We've got our Microsoft platform call. That is actually going to start back up. Somebody in the chat will correct me, but it's on the 31st of August. I think that starts up again. Is that a Tuesday? Let me look briefly to calendar. No, so it'll be the 6th of September. It looks like that's going to start again for those Tuesday calls. And we've got adaptive cards, Microsoft Identity Platform, Office add-ins, and Power Platform, as well as the two biweekly calls there at the bottom. You are right now today on that bottom call, the SPFx-call link there. All the recurrent invites, ak.ms/m365/calls. And again, all of that is available from the single link we talked about a minute ago. And with that, we'll hand things over to David for sharing his caring.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. Well, friends, as you have seen and will see even more opportunities to participate in the community, we are here to provide you assistance and guidance if some of those areas are new and unfamiliar to you. For example, how do I submit a pull request? What's a fork? How do I clone something? Well, we're here to provide you hands-on guidance. Sharing is Caring is a program that will, in live sessions, work with you to show you how to accomplish a number of these tasks. These are safe space opportunities. We don't record them, and you're more than welcome to join more than once and ask any and all questions. You'll work right alongside members of the team, members of Microsoft, and MVPs in the community, and other like-minded folks that want to collaborate with you. We have upcoming dates in August and September for Power Platform Samples Contributor and Writing for the Web. And as the summer comes to an end and everyone gets back from their vacations, we'll be expanding those as well. Now, once you have contributed, we want to recognize and celebrate all the amazing work that you're doing. And you may have seen some of these badges out there in the wild, Twitter, LinkedIn, on your fridge. They are here to provide the recognition for all the hard work that you're doing. We partnered with Credly, the same Credly that does all the certification badges. So these are going to sit right alongside those same badges, and you can associate them to your LinkedIn profile. As I mentioned, share them on Twitter. They really show that you're making a difference, and it's our way of saying thank you and recognizing and celebrating all the work you're doing. We do need you to opt in. You only need to do that once, aka.ms/m365pnp-recognition. We've seen some coming out in the last couple of weeks, and we'll see even more this week. So be on the lookout for your email if you have been contributing. If you have any questions, reach out to myself or Hugo Bernier. Sometimes things get a little misconfigured if GitHub accounts are different or emails are different, but we want to make sure that everyone is recognized. So thank you all again. Patrick, back to you.
Thank you, David. And with that, we will go to Vesa for our SharePoint Framework updates.
Yay! This week, we already, technically we released this in 1.15.2 version last week, but we did announce that officially this week. So 1.15.2 could have actually been 1.16 since it has a few kind of interesting new large capabilities. So it is the new latest and greatest version of SharePoint Framework. Some of the new features are going to be mentioned in upcoming slides, so please check it out. It is the default installation if you install the SharePoint Framework right now from npm. What was cool to see that even though it's a summer holiday season still, we did a all-time highest record on the third-party custom components built with SPFx on this week's Monday. I haven't actually checked Tuesday's statistics because of personal reasons, so I ran out of time on that doing that today. But anyway, it's cool to see that the growth continues. That small dip which has happened within the previous week is completely normal. It's a seasonal thing which we can see throughout the last years as well. This is the latest listing what's in the 1.15.2, where we actually had a new feature called Enable Service Principal Registration in App Acquisition Flow. So this is simplifying approval of third-party custom APIs as part of the deployment. There was also, among the other things, new media action type for Viva Connection went GA. There was ESLint support update based on community feedback. So we got a lot of feedback related on enforcing some of the ESLint rules, and we changed that. Thank you for the feedback on that. And a lot of bug fixes and adjustments. Now, 1.16 preview is coming out in late August or early September. And one of the really cool things as part of these releases will be that Teams JavaScript SDK v2 will be natively supported as the default Teams JavaScript library as part of the SharePoint Framework. And that enables multiple other scenarios then with SharePoint Framework. A lot of more details will be then shared when release is getting closer and when the preview is available. But that's all from my side. A lot of cool stuff in the development and more goodies for developers to take advantage. Back to you, Patrick.
Thank you for those updates, Vesa. And we'll go over to Julie for PnPjs client library updates.
Yes, and we have a few. So version 3.6 is to be released tomorrow. And if Patrick and I can get ourselves together, that will absolutely happen. We're going to have some general documentation updates as we always do. It looks like the graph support for list content types and columns will be ready to go for this next release. We are releasing an update for the URL encoding, and that should solve some issues that people have been having over the last few months with the URL encoding, so that'll be a good update. And then graph support for special folders, which is already merged in. So if you want to try that out, you can check out the nightly build. So if you do an npm install for the @pnp/sp @v3 nightly, you will get the nightly build, which has any updates that were merged in pre a release. So you can test things out that were merged in pre them being released. And as always, please follow us M365 PnPjs on Twitter. Back to you, Patrick.
Awesome stuff. Thanks, Julie, for those updates. And we will go over to Gary for the CLI updates.
So thanks, Patrick. So as Vace has already mentioned, we had the release of new version of SharePoint Framework earlier in the week. So we have a new release of CLI for Microsoft 365 with support for upgrading to 1.15.2 and also validating your projects as well. So there's the project upgrade command and the project doctor command has gained that support. So we've done a new minor release kind of straight away so that you don't have to install the beta release to take advantage of this upgrade. You can just install the latest release and you'll get that new functionality. Alongside that, we've got a couple of extra commands as well that have been added in and extended. So one is a simple command to just rename files in SharePoint. So we've made that really super easy by just providing a single command to do that, and also enhancements around permissions and groups as well in SharePoint. There's lots and lots of issues open around permissions. So if you're interested in helping out around SharePoint permissions, adding new commands, then definitely check out our GitHub repository and have a look at the issues because there's a lot of activity happening there at the moment. So like I said, we've got the latest version out, so go along to npm where you can install it using the latest tag. Check out the release notes as well for what we've been working on, and please do follow us on Twitter at CLI Microsoft 365 to keep up to date with all the latest releases.
Awesome stuff. Thank you, Gary, for those updates. And now we'll go over to reusable components updates. We got React Controls 3.9.0 with some new controls in there. Really neat stuff. Content type picker, for example, modern audio. Excited to see that get dropped in. Enhancements to some of our existing controls and various other fixes. And those React controls, again, are the ones designed to be used in the body of your web parts or application customizers. And then we've got the React property controls, which are at 3.8.0. So some localization, some other stuff there. And then updates for SPFx 1.15.2 is in progress. Thanks to everybody contributing and working on the controls. A really super valuable resource for everyone in the community to help jumpstart your projects. And really excited to see those continue to grow. You can follow them on Twitter at M365PnP Controls for all the latest updates there. And with that, we'll go over to updates on modern search, which is aka.ms/pnp-search. We'll get you all the latest documentation and updates. We're still on 4.7.0 beta. That's the June 2022 release. Thanks to all the contributors there. That's got support for adaptive card rendering, as well as see the release notes for all the other fixes and new features as well. Again, if you're on the V3 branch, really encourage you to update to the V4 branch when you get a chance. It's been quite a bit now since we're really not updating the V3 branch anymore. So if you want all the latest, greatest, definitely jump over to that V4 branch before you do any other major modifications involving deployments on using the V3 branch. I said the word branch a lot there, so good stuff. Definitely check out the modern search. It's the best way to build a great, flexible experience for your users in SharePoint and get all the greatest results to them. Really just good work on that slide, Patrick. PnP SPFx samples. This is going to be Hugo.
Thank you, Patrick. So we have two repositories for SPFx extensions and web parts, and they contain samples that sometimes are almost production-ready samples. Sometimes they're just there to illustrate a concept. And, they also help you understand that sometimes there's not just a single way that you can solve a problem. There's different ways to do this. We have 3 updates, 2 from new contributors, and let's talk about them. So we have the new pages, or an update to the pages hierarchy, which allows to expand the tree view to find the current page, the highest ancestor on the page when given a page ID of 0, and expanded the tree view with only the pages that occur in the ancestor history as well as the current page. And that was by our friend Slow Robot, a new contributor. Luis Mañez has updated my words, so you can actually select any user that you want to get their profiles. So you can search from different things using like the people picker or page environment variable or the currently logged in user. And we also have an update to the layouts. Actually, we can use a card layout or a list layout for this web part. That's great. And then we have a new palette picker from a new contributor, Flowerbot. So it's a custom property pane that has a color palette generator, and it was actually inspired by the property pane portal, which is another web part that we had contributed. That's a lot of P's, by the way. So I guess in other words, you could say that they were persuaded by the pesky pain of custom property panes, and the palette picker was prepared from the previously published property portal by pristine, passionate participant who properly deserves praise, promotion, and probably a pat on the back. Patrick? Oh no, actually, sorry. David, my peer. David, back to you.
That's some powerful persistence there, Hugo.
It was
very nice work. All right, I loved it. ACEs, we have a new ACE. It is a public holidays ACE by Nandeep, as well as Smita and Ravi. So they co-authored this together, but it was a pull request by Nandeep. So public holidays, it allows you to identify what the public holidays are for your office. Pretty cool. And you can even set your office location so you can identify exactly where you're at for that day. So definitely check it out. Thank you, Nandeep, Smita, and Ravi. Patrick, back to you.
Let us proceed post haste to optional picture time. Besa, if you want to take over the sharing here.
Will do. Let me pull everybody in here, and let's move to together mode. We are already recording the screen, but if you enable your video, you will get into this group of people. And let's wait a few more time and watch the face. Bill, we can see you on the back row. What's the face? What's the face? We still have a few more seats, a few more seats in the room, and we are filling in. It's good to see so many familiar faces again on here. And as said, we are already recording, so let's do some hand waving, everybody. Thanks everybody for joining. One more time, we'll grab a GIF animation out of this. Thank you, Chris, for the great acting on the middle there. Awesome work, and here as well. Thanks everybody. Thank you for joining. Awesome to have you in the call. We'll grab a GIF animation out of that. So thank you. Let's move into the demo part of the day. Really, really cool demos coming up today. Patrick?
Back to me. So our first demo today is going to be Marcus. Marcus, if you're ready, take it away.
Yes, can you see my screen?
Sure can.
Okay. Today I want to present you a little SharePoint Framework solution on a Taxonomy File Explorer. This is a File Explorer-like view based on SharePoint Framework, managed metadata, and of course, PnPjs. Short intro about me, who might have forgotten me because I think the last time I was presenting was a while ago. And my name is Markus Möller. I'm a Microsoft 365 developer expert working for Avanade in Germany. And since last year, I'm also a Microsoft MVP for Microsoft 365 development. You can reach out to me on Twitter or via my blog if you need some further help on this or other samples I provided. Let's now directly jump into the demo. Let's render and manipulate hierarchical view based on managed metadata and do it with drag and drop options of HTML5. So what I've prepared is a list with some plain or easy documents. And what's important here is the fifth color. It's a custom, the fifth column, custom one called folder structure. And this column is based on managed metadata, as you can see. And I have tagged all my documents with at least one folder of a hierarchical structure. And this hierarchical structure, I can now render in the custom web part. Therefore, I have to switch. And this is how my structure looks like and how it is rendered. And what you can see with the figures on the right is how many documents are resided below that folder, including subfolders. So this is an aggregated thing. But for instance, let's have a look in the subfolder 1.1, where we can find 3 documents in. Yeah. And now, what I already introduced, what we can do, we can manipulate the managed metadata column simply by drag and drop operations. So we can pull, we can drag this document here. We can drag this document here in a free empty folder. And what we see immediately, we have it inside here. And behind the scenes, there was a simple file item operation, simply adding this metadata to that file item. when we compare this to File Explorer, what we did is we did not move the file, but we did place it additionally in this folder because it's still here in the source folder. This is like in the File Explorer, you would do like with a link to a document. Yeah, so you have a document in one folder and you put a link or place a link to that document in the second folder. But this is my default operation. I declared that way. But it's not all. What you can do in the File Explorer, for instance, as well is, of course, you can work with the secondary mouse button or with the right mouse button in most, or at least for right-handers. This cannot really be done in HTML5 with drag and drop, but what you can do is work with additional keys. So what I cannot show you really live here because my camera does not show my keyboard, but you can simply trust me that I will now press the Control key and do the same operation again. Put it in my subfolder here. Now I get a context menu. And what we had done by default is the third one. Yeah. And what we can now do is we can do this one, for instance, we can move the file. And the result is our subfolder 2 does not locate the document 4 anymore, but the subfolder 131 still does. And the third operation, what we can also do, now I have to press this Control key once again, we can now drag this document once again into another empty folder. And now we can also copy it. And this really duplicates the file. So now we have a second file with the same content. And this is what we can see here from the name. We have now a document for copy file. And last not least, what we can additionally do is from outside the document library, we can, and this document coming from outside, and this we can also drag into our folder. And there we have our brand new document also in the list. So this works the same because our drop zone is able to detect between coming a custom item from my SharePoint Framework web part as well as from a standard file item. And this now, let me show you in the next thing. But finally, what I can also show you, this is what I did in an update, is also what was a request, was to have expand and collapse all button. This also should work. Expand all is okay, but collapse all is also possible here, as you can see. And this also, how this works, I can show you in my next slides. So first, a little overview how this is rendered. We have one big parent React component, and this is, you can see with the outer icon is the Taxonomy File Explorer. And then the tree is consisting of many, many components called term label. It did only highlight a couple of them just to make it precise, but in fact, every folder, subfolder, subfolder is an own term label. And they are nested or cascaded, and I will show you how to render that in a minute. On the right hand, not that much important, but also important for the drag and drop operations are my file labels, because they also consist the information about which document it is, which GUID it has, which URL, and so on and so forth, what I all need for the file operations later on. And the methods to do all this are all, and this is what you can see at the bottom, located in the parent Taxonomy File Explorer component. Yeah, and you will see the connection in between in the code snippets on the next slides. But this has a little overview on how the structure of this whole solution works. Let's start with some PnPjs magic. How to retrieve the terms in the very beginning. This is the magic method is get all children as ordered tree. This will get from our term store the given term set, all the terms in an ordered manner, and also with children. I show this here in debug mode, how this looks like. What you can see here when you start at the top, we have 3 items. One is, or 2 are collapsed. One is expanded. The folder 1 is expanded. Folder 2 and 3 are collapsed at the bottom. And folder 1, of course, has additional children, where the first one is expanded as well. And the second and third one are collapsed. And this is how the data comes from PnPjs directly. And this is a fantastic option because you don't have to take care for that anymore. You simply have to build your tree with terms by simply transferring all the items into your custom data structure. Nothing else, but the only difference is you have to do it recursive. Yeah? Because every parent term node consists children and so on and so forth. And this is how I'm going to render all that. So what you can see here, only my term node is a recursive function. This works as long as my depth of leaves is got done. Yeah, in my case, I have 3, but in other cases, you might have 4, 5, 6, 7 would work as well. Now, on the next 2 screens, I'm differentiating. You can see this by the horizontal line in the more or less in the middle of the slide between my 2 components. In the upper side, I have my parent taxonomy file explorer component, and at the bottom, you can see the term label component, what's happening there. Yeah, so the term label component, which is rendered, at least the base ones, is rendered in the parent one on the upper left. You can see how it's using some functions there. And the first functions, what we need in the parent component is render files and reset the, you have seen that in a demo that was not working perfectly at the moment, don't know what was happened there, is when I highlight one clicked folder, I have to deselect and unhighlight all the others. Yeah? So this only works in parent components because I don't know when I click one component, which other component might be highlighted. To simply drop that off, this is why I will check off all of them. Yeah? And started, this is in the term label component. This is what you can see at the bottom. Once a node gets selected, I will reset all the other checked ones potentially, and I will render files to show which files are located under this subfolder, subfolder, whatever. Yeah, highlighted once again. Same way I'm doing with the term operations. These are also done by callbacks. So for instance, we have all the different methods here. I showed we have the add term, which was the default one. We have the replace term, which was the move operation. We have the copy file or the upload of a brand new file. These are all handed into the child components. And this is done, what you can see on the bottom left, in the drop operation. And in the drop operation, you can see in the if statement above the highlight is if I do not find files, then I know I don't have to upload something from outside. And then I distinct between my, if I have an event control key, this was the context menu, or if I don't have that clicked, then I will simply run my default operation called add new term, which is also shown here on the bottom right, how I do that and how I call it. And the real file operations in my SP service I will show later on. So the difference I already introduced is how do I handle the special drop from files outside. This is when I find in my data transfer object, when I find the default files, this is always how it comes in, then I will catch them and simply proceed them in an upload operation. What I have additionally done is some contextual styling. There you also might have seen some mismatch in the demo, unfortunately, is what I'm doing here on the drag enter or drag leave events that I'm changing my style. This is better to find, to place it, otherwise really can see which folder currently my mouse is on and where I would drop the file. And this was the green background. you have seen. Yeah, and I think at least once you have seen it twice, and this was of course a bit buggy. Sorry for that. Last not least, the file operation itself with SharePoint REST API. The simplest of all of them is the move operation, or the item by replace, because here I'm simply overwriting whatever was there with the new taxonomy value, and this is that one coming from the drop operation. On that folder, I dropped the file. This is, I will overwrite. 2 lines more, I have my default operation. This is the update, because here I have to build a construction of my existing field value, which might be 1 to 3 more terms, and add the new taxonomy value coming from the drop operation. The rest is the same. I will only update my file list item, or my corresponding list item to the file, nothing more. Much more complex are the real file operations. And here I only want to show the item by copy, because what I have to do here now, of course, I have to create a new file name. This is, you have seen, I will only inserting, like Microsoft does by default as well, inserting an underscore copy into existing file name. And based on that new file name, I'm creating a destination URL. And based on that one, I can copy my existing file by path to a new one. And that's it mainly. And then I will also update the list item, but this list item update I already shown, that's quite the same way than done previously. Yeah, that was from my side. Last not least, as you might remember from all my presentations, some resources. I wrote a detailed blog post about how I implemented all this stuff. I, of course, shared the sample with the PnP library. Here I have to add that my blog post is a bit outdated because I updated the sample already to SharePoint Framework version 1.15, and including that, I was also introducing, I did not mention that in the code, forgot about that, sorry, that I introduced, for instance, the React use callback hooks, which makes the whole solution much faster in reacting. Last not least, also the magic of get all children as ordered tree taxonomy function in the PnPjs documentation. Thank you for listening. That's from my side.
Awesome. Great stuff. Really neat to see the use of the taxonomy there. Really great control. It's a perfect example that folks could pick up and expand on for their solutions. So fantastic stuff. Marcus, thanks so much. And we're going to go over to Elio. If you are ready to take over, our second presenter today. And I see your screen. Take it away, Elio.
So thank you very much. Hello, all. I'm going to do an introduction on the Viva Connections Toolkit, which I've been building for a while now. And finally, we can show it. It's still in beta or preview, and we want to have some feedback from you using it, from what we can extend and so on. So let's get started. Okay, so who am I? I'm Elio, currently working for Rapid API, which does everything around APIs. I do a lot of extension development in VS Code these days. So I'm also the lead developer of DevTools, what they call it in Rapid API. If you want to find me, all the details are here, but let's just dive into what is the Viva Connections Toolkit. There's quite a lot of toolkits, but the Viva Connections Toolkit is created for Viva Connections. It's an extension that is created for Visual Studio. I already mentioned that it's currently in beta, and you can start using it with the guidelines that I'm going to give you. So why is it created? It's first created for streamlining your development process. We saw that there's quite a lot of people that don't know how to start doing development with Viva, but also making it easier for them to start using Viva, or to start from a sample or by a scenario, so learn from others. That's where the project is going to help you a lot. And over time, there will become more and more features available. So right now, you can start using it to create and manage your projects. and learn by a couple of scenarios that are already there for you straight from the start, or start by a sample that somebody else created from the community. So installation process is pretty simple. You can actually go to the marketplace from VS Code, and there you can look for the Viva Connections Toolkit extension, or you can open Visual Studio Code, and then from the extensions panel, you can push the button and search for Viva Connections Toolkit, and then you can install it. There's one quirk which I'm going to show you in this demo. Because it's a preview, you actually need to install it from a preview. So that's one thing that I'm going to quickly highlight over here. So here I am in my Visual Studio Code client or editor. And if I look for Viva, I already find the Viva Connections Toolkit over here. Right now you see that it's version 0.0 and then a build number that we added. If you install or click on install, it will say, hey, there's no main version. That's because it's a pre-release and we haven't released a final version yet. So the first time what you need to do is click on this arrow and then install pre-release version. That's it. It's already installed. So that's a good thing. So from the moment you did that, over here you see a PnPjs Code logo, and then you end up on our welcome experience. This welcome experience will be shown when you're not opening an SPFx project. So the moment you're in an SPFx project, you don't see this kind of welcome experience anymore. This is only created for you to get started with a new project creation. So what can we find here is a couple of things. So on above, you will find how you can start creating a Viva project by just from a clean slate or from a scenario or from an example or sample. You can also open a folder if you already have a project, or you can actually check your dependencies, because for Viva Connections, you need to have a couple of dependencies, like you need to have the Yeoman generator, because this extension still uses the Yeoman generator. You also need to have gulp and so on in order to start running these processes. And we made it pretty easy for you. So if you just click on check dependencies, hopefully for me it works out fine. So everything is there. If not, it will tell you what is failing, or it will tell you, hey, node is not correct, or maybe there's a missing dependency, and then it will give you a message like, do you want to install these dependencies? You can also click on install dependencies over here. If something ever goes wrong with the extension, you could click on Control backtick to open actually this pane at the bottom, and then go to output and find Viva Connections Toolkit in the output. And there you can actually see what it does. So for every kind of action, there's a couple of things that it will do. So for the check dependencies, it checked the node version, it checked if npm was there, and then also it checked for all the npm dependencies that you need to have. So apparently we have all of them, so we can actually start. So let's start with a new project. So as it's a Viva Connection project, it's going to ask me, where do I want to create it? I already created a main folder. If you want, you can just select another folder where you want to create it. So I'm going to create it in the PnP Viva folder, and then I'm going to say Viva demo community call. It's going to ask me, do I want to create basic, image, or primary? So I can just say primary, and then give this a name, or hello world is just fine. It already exists, so let's say 1, 2, 3. And what it now does, it creates a project, and once the project is created, it will also say, hey, it's cool, but I saw that you haven't installed npm yet, or the dependencies yet. So it's going to do the npm installation. I'm just going to skip this because this is going to take a little bit more time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open a new folder where I haven't done anything yet apart from installing it. So once this is done and you go back to the PnP VS Code, panel. Now the welcome experience is gone, and you have a couple of other experiences or actions that are now available. Let's focus on the above one. So the above one is the account. So what you can do is sign in to M365. So if I click on that button and I say, I allow this, what's going to happen now is it's going to use the Microsoft 365 CLI in order to authenticate. So behind the scenes, we just use the same CLI that Gary was showing before. I just updated it to the latest version. So all the things that are possible could be possible within this extension. It's a code flow, so I get a code, and the cool thing is the extension will just open that window, but also the code will already be copied in your clipboard, so the only thing that you need to do is paste it. Now that I have a new project, I logged in, there are a couple of validation steps that are going to happen. And one of these validation steps is it will receive my SharePoint or the main SharePoint site, but also the main SharePoint app catalog site. So if I'm going over here, so that's my SharePoint site, and that was my main app catalog site. So as my SharePoint site is different than the placeholder that is being set in any of the configuration files. So if we go to the config file and let's say serve, I apparently already clicked in this one before, so I accidentally did that. Is there like, did I already click it? Okay, apparently I already clicked. But what it's going to do, if there are like in serve the initial page, if this is set to the placeholder URL, which is, I think, put your SharePoint site's URL here. That is the actual placeholder. Then you can just say, yes, I want to update this, and then automatically it will update this particular placeholder. And then it matches the one that you currently are logged into, because that's pretty easy to start running the next tasks. And the next tasks are, for instance, serving it. So if I click on serve, it will automatically spin up the gulp serve command. And then it actually knows where it needs to go. And if everything works out, here's my Hello World adaptive card that is being added within my project. So this is what it can do. And there are a couple of other things, like I can cancel this and then I can start bundling it locally. And locally means that you're just going to use the local host version. And production means that you're going to use the production version of your package. So now that I packaged it, bundled it and packaged it locally, there is now a Viva Connection SPFx file available. If I close this task and I go to actions, inside actions, there are a couple of other things like deploy the solution. So deploying the solution, if we go over here and I go to my app catalog, just to see that I'm not cheating. So there's no file there yet. So if I click on deploy the solution, it says, hey, this solution has been deployed. If I'm going to refresh this over here, there's now a new file that is being added, Viva demo. There's one thing that is not yet available here. It's the sync to Teams. So as there's no API that we can actually use from within the extension, this is something, yeah, sorry, yes, I use the old experience. I don't even know how to enable the new experience because I've not been there for quite a long time, apparently. So I didn't even know that there was a new experience. So blame me. So that said, old experience still works and it shows my file. But what I was saying is in the here, the sync to Teams, normally you have to click it. This is still something you need to do. Hopefully we get an API for this that we can actually start using from within the extension or from within the CLI. so that we can also automate this as well. So what can we do more? Gary was also already mentioning like validating the current project, like with the CLI doctor or the CLI SPFx doctor command. Same thing we do here behind the scenes, or we use the same command. So if we click on validate current project, it's actually going to run that command, and it's then going to say, hey, CLI didn't find any issues with your project because I just created the project. We can go to output, and we can also see the same thing over here. You can also see which commands that are running from the CLI. So in that case, you can still use the same command if something fails, and so on. There's also some help and feedback available for you, so quick access to the documentation, and if you want to report an issue or if you want to start using the Graph Explorer, everything is there. If there's something missing, just report it in our issue list. Now, there are a couple of other things that are pretty cool, and one of these things that we have been thinking about was scenarios. So scenarios is a way for you to get to know and get to understand how you can do things with Viva Connections. In this case, or here, what you can see is, well, they created 2 scenarios that you can leverage. So they are available on GitHub. If you click here on the GitHub link, it will bring you to this scenario. But what you can also do is click on this computer icon, and it will allow you to download it locally and start using it. So if I go back over to PnP Viva, to my correct folder, Viva Sen 1, and I give it a new name, it will download the sample, it will update all the references, and here you see over here in the workbench, in the configuration, serve, here it's contoso.sharepoint.com. If I click on yes, it will start updating all these references. So right now everything is updated. But the cool thing is there's a full code tour integrated. So with this experience, you have a nice way to get started and to get used to how to work with these ACE experience. And you can then just walk through the full code tour experience in order to know and to get to learn how to start working. Here you are going to do some HTTP calls and so on. So, well, they did a really good job on explaining where and what to do and how you can start using it. The same thing can be done from samples, although a sample is not going to provide you some guidance if the developer didn't put it into that system. But let's go to over here. But you will see a similar experience like before. So a scenario or a sample, it's just the same. It's just a project that lives in GitHub. And we do a roll-up over here as well. You can go through all the samples. There's quite a lot of them. So you can just click on next just to see all these things. And then if you say, OK, this is a scenario that I want to start using, or this is a sample that I want to start using, you just do the same thing. You click on the Use Sample button. You click on Browse, because I want to be able to put it in the correct folder. This was my recent files. It will download the sample and do the updates accordingly. So yet again, what you can see over here, it started a new project. So it knew that it was a new project. So it does the npm installation straight away. Just going to cancel it. It's not a requirement. But what we have more here is another thing, is a way for you to add new components. So if you're working in a particular SPFx project, you can click on new component, and then you have a way to add more things in here as well. So if you want, you can add a web part. If you click React, over here, you can see it will automatically start installing the other dependencies. And if we are going to web parts, we see that the Hello World web part is now being created. So this was actually a quick demo or a quick introduction of what the Viva Connections Toolkit actually is for you to use within Visual Studio Code. There's a way for you to also contribute, and the actual code lives on the github.com. On the PnP, there is now a Microsoft 365 hosted apps VS Code repository. So that's where you can put all the issues, feedback, and whatsoever. So if you want to be part of it, we'll be happy to accept your pull requests and feedback there. So back over to the host.
Great, thanks, Elio. My name is still Patrick. So we're going to jump back over to the slides real quick to close things out. Two great demos from Marcus on that React Taxonomy File Explorer, really great stuff there. And Elio just showed us the fantastic Viva Connections Toolkit VS Code extension. So if you haven't, certainly check out both of those a little bit more. I want to thank all of you for joining us here on today's call. Recording will be available again in about 24 hours on our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev or at M365PnP. Our next Viva Connections and SPFx call will be August 25th, same time, and our next general dev call will be next Thursday, August 18th. Can't believe we're already into August. Big stuff. Thank you all so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.